Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome to our coverage of American Muscle Series Season 8, Race 3 at Mugello. We were just discussing the right way to pronounce this, and I'm going to stick with Mugello. So if I'm wrong, please send your emails to Joshuah Wilkie at slowmotionbroadcasting.com. Joshua Wilkie joining us in the production trailer on the buttons and knobs, and I'm joined in the commentary booth by Andrea Grandbouche. And Andre, after last week, this is a completely different track. Mamma mia, we're in Italy. What do you expect tonight?
I'm expecting a nice, clean race. I think last week was a little bit chaotic for these guys. It's got them kind of on their toes, a little bit more aware, and I think they want a clean slate after the chaos that was Long Beach, and this track should be able to provide a little bit of breathing room. Nice and wide, a lot of runoff, got to be careful of the 1Xs and such, but it's a fun track. It's a very long circuit. We're going to have some very long lap times, but it has a little bit of everything. I'm looking at the track map right now. We got some carousels, we got some hairpins, we got some sweepers, we got any kind of obstacle these guys are going to have fun navigating. So not too familiar with this circuit, so I can't make any bold predictions, but all I know is I'm going to have fun watching.
Absolutely. We will see. This series did do a preseason race here, and the drivers were pretty happy with the way that the circuit drove. We'll see if they're able to race it with 40-plus Mustangs taking turn 1 in anger. And last week, I promised that this week we would have points, and unfortunately, our cartoon AI bot in the Discord server is not giving us the right numbers, so we don't have a display for the points for you. So I'm going to have to read them off the point sheet, old school style. I'm going to get my readers on here. For the Pro Division, Jack Sanchez currently leads the way with 98 points, 3 points ahead of Matt Malone, who is conspicuously absent so far tonight. David Finch is in third place with 83 points. Jay Bast has 79 points. Luke Sudengay, 77 points, and is currently the leader for the Clean Driver Championship in the Pro Division. That rounds out your top 5 there. And if we jump over to the Challenger Division, Charlie Hosey leads the way. I know, Andrea, you're a truther. 95 points. Camden Decker is in second place with 88 points. Ryan Campbell in third place with 84 points. Jeff Schnackle, former driver of the Bomb Pop, is in fourth place with 72 points, with Matt Thompson rounding out the top 5 with 68 points. And then popping over to that AM championship right now, Dave Blair leading the way with 90 points over Tom Wint in second place with 80 points. Right there behind him, knocking on the door with 79 points, Scott Brooks. Freddie Weaver in fourth place with 77 points, and Elijah Cloft in fifth place with 69 points. Nice. So some good points battles developing here early on in the season. Now they do get 2 drop weeks, and that's going to start coming into play pretty soon. And we're going to actually join right now with Dave Blair, your amateur points division leader. And we're going to take a lap around Mugello, and with him, it's going to be about a 2 minutes and 8 seconds, 2 minutes, 10 seconds lap as he comes here to turn 1. He's really opening up that entry. Want to get a nice late apex as he's downshifting through the corner. And it sounds like he's maybe having a little bit of trouble there with the oversteer as he comes into turn 2, which is a left-hander, followed by a right-hander, turn 3, and then a bit of a straightaway, which might present your second passing opportunity. Your first one is really there at the end of this main straightaway for turn 1. Going to be a left-hander. It's going to be pretty quick. They're going to be a bit of a dab of brake, and they're going to stay in the same gear and power through that, lift off for turn 5, and then another short shoot. As we transition to a downhill section, we're going to have turn 6 be a right-hander into turn 7, which is a left-hander, and it's really, really downhill here. So the weight of the car really on the nose at this point in the track. And then we have 2 right-handers in the form of turns 8 and 9. Not really a good passing opportunity, but definitely a spot where you can close the gap on the car ahead if you're able to get it better than them. And then another short shoot, which might be a good passing opportunity, running up to turn 10, which is a right-hander, and followed by another quick left-hander immediately after that. Not quite a chicane, a little bit more spread out than a chicane, but it has the feel of one. And then the run up to a tight round, what did you call it, a roundabout carousel-like turn, going downhill. Turn 12 is going to be real easy for the car to become unsettled as the pitch changes, and it kind of flattens out at the bottom, sort of like a Road America. And then what really does feel like a chicane, 13 and 14, just going to try to straighten this out as much as possible. And probably your second best passing opportunity here coming up in turn 15. Slow Motion Broadcasting's own Joshua Wilkie was able to really abuse the entry of this corner compared to other drivers and get a lot of moves done when he raced here in the Spec Racer Forward. We'll see if anybody's able to pull off a similar maneuver in this Mustang. You see there the pit entry as they come off the final corner, and Dave's just going to drive straight down the straightaway, finish that flying lap, get a time on the board. That's good enough for P6 overall right now. That's gonna put him provisionally on the amateur pole. He's the only one to set a time in the amateur division so far. No, there goes Eli Kloft, a little bit slower. Right now, Luke Sudengay leading the way with a 208.225. He and I believe it was Evan Hoopchak and Luis Henriquez were the only 2 able to break through the 207 barrier. So we'll see how these times start to pan out. What do you expect to see at the top of this field, Andrea? How spread out do you think they're going to get?
Well, with the straightaways on this circuit, I think we're going to see a little bit of slipstreaming. They got plenty of time for that, and I think that'll keep them relatively close together. I really think how tight they stay is a matter of how tight they want to be. If they want to get aggressive and stay on each other's bumpers, or if they want to give a little bit of room. I mean, that high-speed chicane you were talking about on our walkthrough lap that you want to make as straight as possible, that's the kind of section that you don't want to be too close to the competition. It's very fast, very sweeping, and all it takes is one little mistake, and that could be disaster. I don't know. Again, I think slipstream is going to be a big factor here, and a little bit of an upset to the top of the board. Taylor Ballant, who has not had the most speed in the world in these last couple of rounds, takes the pole, at least provisionally for the time being, a 208.1 to Luke Sudengay's 208.2. So we will see if he can hold on to that, but big improvement as far as lap times and performance out of that number 21 machine. and we will see where it all shakes out. Charlie Hosey leading the way as far as the challengers. Again, he has the points lead coming in. He is P9, first among challengers, 209.011. As far as amateurs are concerned, Johnson going to be 23rd, first among them, 210.7. Tight lap times up front, though. I mean, look at that, Randall. We got 8 cars in the 208 bracket, less than a second apart.
Yeah, they do get 3 laps to set a lap time around here. This will be their second flying lap. They have 10 minutes to set that lap, which should be enough time, or just enough time. Might be cutting it close on some of the slower drivers, but they do have 3 minutes right now to complete their final laps, as Tyler Blank is going to go on to his final flying lap, and we're on board with Charlie Hosey. Andre, always a truther for Charlie Hosey. We'll see if he's able to clinch the Challenger division this season or not. Now, Andre, there's another wild card to introduce here today. The forecast was showing a 49% chance of rain by the end of the race session, but as we got into the session, the forecast kind of brightened up a little bit. Not so much a chance of rain, but it could happen. Do you think we'll see that today?
Well, you had mentioned before the race that it was looking like a 20% by the end of the race, and that doesn't sound like much, but the only time we've ever seen rain in the American Muscle Series, we were getting a 1% chance.
That's right.
And it did indeed rain, so I don't want to say it's super likely, but it could happen.
Well, the weather service has updated the forecast once we joined quali, and right now it's looking like a 50 to 60% chance during the race. So possibly some weather moving in to the area. We'll see if that affects this race at all. Try to keep on that weather service to see if they'll give us another update as qualifying progresses and as we get into the race. Right now, it looks like it could be a coin flip.
Yeah, it could be. We'll have to wait and see as the race progresses. It is a battle for the pole, though. Taylor Ballant did improve his lap time, not quite enough to keep the pole out of the hands of Luke Sudengay with a 2-minute 7.579, just about a tenth of a second.
You saw it flash up there for just a moment, the weather information. 97 degrees Fahrenheit track temperature, 36 degrees Celsius. So a warm track, not overly hot. So not going to be really cooking these tires, but these tires will be feeling the strain here, I imagine, with the way this course winds and curves, and they have a lot of medium speed corners. So I expect they're probably going to be hurting by the time they come in for the pit stop. This series does not have a mandatory pit stop per se, but they are fuel limited to 40% driving time. So unless you can save a whole lot of fuel, you're going to need to come in for a fuel stop at some point. But there's a pretty big window of opportunity to come into the pit lane. So we'll see if there's much, how many different strategies we see on pit lane, and it could make a big difference here today.
Well, it definitely made a difference last week. If you remember how the running order got shook up significantly by those pit stops and the variation that we saw in pit times. I think it was Matt Malone who had a 8-second pit stop, and we were thinking there's no way he's going to make it to the end, as everybody else was above 10 seconds, but he somehow did. It's always a big factor here. I mean, when the skill ceiling is so high in this league, but yet the skill range is so tight, everybody's so close together as far as lap times, sometimes that pit stop is the only thing that really gets these guys torn apart.
Yeah, and we'll see if anybody tries to be brave. I did watch Malone's broadcast from last week, and he foolishly went into fuel saving mode very early in the race, only to regret that come the end of the race. So we'll get the starting grid pulled up here any moment now. There we go. Luke Sudengay is on the pole position in the number 41 car with a 2 minutes 7.134. Then 3/10 behind him, Luis Henriquez is going to start second. Taylor Ballant starting third. I think that's his best start of the season, with David Finch in fourth place. Fifth place, David Moore representing Team Woo. Jack Sanchez, last season's champion, starting in sixth position. Andrew Bailing is going to start seventh, with Jeff Schnackle starting on the challenger pole. He was able to pull out a pretty quick time there at the end of the session. Evan Hoopchak is going to start ninth place, with the best Matt Best starting in P10.
We'll get us outside the top 10. We got Cam DeDecker in P11. We've got Phil Keck in 12. 13th goes to Andy Smith, and he's got Charlie Hosey, who I'm putting all my money on Charlie Hosey. P14. Samuel Stone are going to be P15. Neil Kemp 16th. 17th belongs to Matt Thompson. And if you look back to 18th, you're going to find Brandon Brush. Running out the top 20 going to be Tony Morano and Chuck Labano.
Kevin Buckholz is going to start 21st with Mark Royce in 22nd. 23rd sees the likes of Ryan Campbell with Ed Sancinelli starting in 24th. Jay Bass Blast is going to start in 25th, with 26th being Freddie Weaver. I believe that is the amateur pole position as well. 27th place, Jeff Andrus, with 28th being Matthew Gazinda. Aaron Bray starting in 29th. Sean Johnson going to start in 30th. And I'm just going to plow through these remaining drivers as we don't have a whole lot of time, just about a minute until the lights go out. And I lost it there for a second. Where was I at? John Casey, 31st. Dave Blair, 32nd. Tom Wint, 33rd. Levi Powell, 34th. Mike Pico, 35th. Scott Brooks, 36th. 37th, Eli Clough, 38th. Jeff Besnard. Brandon Smith in 39th. 40th, Jay Little. 41, Stephen Price. 42nd, newcomer Jonathan Burt. 43rd, Kenny Stepp. Welcome back, Ken. And 44th, and last on the grid is going to be Chris Logan. We didn't think he was going to make it tonight, so he was able to get here just in time and is going to be starting last.
And it is great to see Kenny Stepp back on the grid again. He did grid last week, and he's here again this week, and he has made one heck of a recovery. He's been fighting like crazy to get back behind the sim wheel, and you'll love to see it. We're glad he's here, and really excited to see some great action here at Mugello. And again, the trend continues, Randall. The points leader, Jack Sanchez, qualifying outside of the top 5 once again. How about it?
Yeah, and we should be seeing the lights come on at any moment now as the grid time is complete. There they are. They're starting to show. We should see that green flag in the air. Luke Sudanga going to lead the way off the line here. We'll see if he gets a good enough start. Green flag is in the air. We're underway here at Mugello in the American Muscle Series. Luis Henriquez, it looks like he's shot out of a cannon, is going to have a huge run on the outside. Evan Hubchak, is that who that is? Or no, is that possibly Jeff Schnackle with an incredible start, going to be up there fighting alongside Jack Sanchez for 5th overall. Looks like Luis might be able to cover off and take the lead of this race going into turn 1. So far, so good. Luke Sudengay, not the greatest start. Taylor Ballant with a pretty good one, challenging Luke Sudengay now as they make their way 2-3 wide through turn 1, and they're really going to need to shake themselves out here and try to get in the single file as they start to enter the bendy stuff, because it's going to get backed up and slowed up. You see at the front of the field, they really come out single file, and they're starting to work their way around. We do see a couple drivers around there in the background. Not sure who that is, and there goes the number. Who is that? I couldn't quite see who that was. Is that the 128 car possibly going around? We'll get through this first lap and then maybe try to pull up some replays to see exactly what happened. Or I see right now from the stewards, we have Ryan Campbell, Ed Sechinelli, Mark Royce, Eli Clough being investigated. I think that was the incident there in turn 2. We see a few of them have jumped to the pit, and a wild start here, Andre.
Yeah, luckily not as wild as last week, but anytime you've got 44 Mustangs kind of fit into one corner, it's going to have a few drivers that don't make it out the other side. And again, we'll try and decipher that as we go. But right now, out front, it is looking good for these leaders. Single file, Luis Henriquez got one heck of a start. Luke Sudengay seemed to be sleeping on the lights there and opened the door up for that driver, Mr. Henriquez, to get up there to the lead. Taylor Ballant jumped to, or stayed in 3rd where he started. Jack Sanchez jumped up 2, and Jeff Schnackle, he gained a couple of positions. He gained 3, actually, from where he started. That Mustang is on the move. We know Schnackle's got some pace. He had it last week. We'll see what he can do here. But now through this high-speed right-hander, seems like they've got it figured out. Single file, not too much fighting throughout the field. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, Randall. I think these guys are looking to have a little bit of a calmer race, at least for the time being.
Yeah, we were expecting a bit of a calmer race, but that turn 2 incident was pretty wild. Well, we're not exactly sure what happened there yet, but right now I can tell you, it looks like Eli Clough is the biggest gainer off the start so far, up 12 spots. It was 13 spots earlier. So he was involved in some way in that incident, not sure exactly how. As we see here, Andrew Bailing looking to make a move on the inside. David Finch here playing catch up a little bit, back in 14th place. He's got a move on the inside of Jay Bass. Jay Bass is also on the move. He's up a handful of spots, maybe even 10. So he's had a really good start. We got a car around. It looks like Tony Morano with a sim pit entry there, stuck sideways in turn 1, just waiting for everybody to go around him. Luckily, there's plenty of room on this track, and they're able to to kind of part around him, and he's able to back up and get going back in the right direction once again. That's a tough moment for Tony Morano. He's got a lot of ground to make up.
Yeah, he just lost a ton of positions. I'm also looking at the scoring and timing. I think the drivers involved early on in lap 2 there, or corner 2, Matt Best and David Moore both lost over 30 positions. So we do have a replay, and we'll take a look. And again, I believe it is going to be that number 13 and the number 11 who are primarily involved. The number 28 as well, possibly going around off the bumper of Finch. And right into Charlie Hosey, getting him airborne. That was quite the impact there, but it's not over yet. I don't believe. Yeah, maybe it is. Nope, because there we go. There's one car around. And that should be it for that incident. But a tough break for Charlie Hosey there, Randall. I mean, he really couldn't have done anything different there. He was just trying to navigate the corner, and all of a sudden he was in the air.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at onboard from the Hosey entry, and you're absolutely right. He didn't really have anywhere to go. We're going to see that develop on the right-hand side of your monitor ahead. You kind of lose track of him, and he's not going to be able to see what's happening until the last moment, and there was nowhere for him to go. He seemed to see it better than we could from this camera, so he was already turning away from the incident, and just an unfortunate incident for Charlie Hosey being caught up in somebody else's crash. And it's just like that. Sometimes it's racing. You win some, you lose some, but look at this, a change for the lead. Luke Sudengay is in the lead. Luis Enriquez has dropped back to third place. Taylor Blanlant is up to second place, and Jack Sanchez is right there knocking on their door. Maybe we can get a replay of that pass pulled up, and I suspect maybe that happened in the final corner.
So on the outside, Luis Enriquez trying to play a little bit of defense, but he is set up for the preferred line in this corner, and they're going to stay side by side, but just around the top. Looks like they were able to muscle around him. We'll take another look at it here, starting a little bit sooner, but Taylor Blanlant and Luke Sudengay just powered by on the top. You don't see that too often at a track like this, but had some horses under the hood there. It worked out pretty well for him. That put Enriquez down to third. Sanchez right there with these leaders is still on the bumper. Again, not qualifying the best, but race pace right there.
Absolutely. So we'll see. Really no harm done in it. So just some jockeying for position, not a lot of time lost by anybody, but we're going to see Luke Sudengay lead the way here. Taylor Blanlant second place, Luis Enriquez in third place, Jack Sanchez in fourth place, and challenger driver Jeff Schnackel all the way up in P5. He has come alive, and I can tell you for sure he was absolutely flying around here in the preseason race as he's currently under pressure from Andrew Bailing. And this is one of the tracks where there was some friendly ribbing going on in the Discord about maybe Schnackel's too fast to be in the challenger division.
Yeah, honestly, at the start of the season, when I heard he was getting bumped up, I thought he was going to get bumped right to pro because he was right there with the pros last year. And when you said he was only up to challenger, I thought, well, there's your challenger champion more than likely. So I'm not going to say, though, that he's too fast for challenger because Charlie Hosey, he's had some misfortunes, but he's really right there on pace with Schnackel. Those two have been battling door-to-door numerous times throughout the season. And then you have other drivers like Stoner and De Decker who have also shown nearly equal pace. It's a tough call. I mean, it's hard to really rank these guys and organize them because at the end of the day, racing is racing. The best driver doesn't always win, and the worst driver doesn't always lose. So, I mean, it's up to the drivers to debate, and it's up to you as the admin to kind of make these decisions at the end of the day. But I think Challenger is still a really good battle, especially with Hosey and Schnackel just so close.
Absolutely, and we are constantly evaluating the drivers in the league to see if they're in the right divisions. We have demoted drivers down divisions in the past. We have promoted them up against their will in the past. We jump back to Freddie Weaver. Currently, your amateur division leader sitting cool in 22nd place. He has been able to gain some spots and kept that nose clean. We'll see if he's able to put together 40 minutes and keep that amateur win over Mike Pico, who's currently running second in division. He's got Eli Clough there right behind him in the second Taco Bell entry. The first Taco Bell entry always goes out, of course, to Mr. Keck and Taco Phil out there on track again tonight. We will see how he does tonight, but still a lot of drivers circulating. We are seeing quite a spread, and it spread out pretty early. As seeing a little bit of dirt kicked up ahead of this group, so somebody's run a little bit wide. Track track limits here are pretty forgiving, so we're not going to see a lot of people run afoul of the incident limit here, I would suspect. But don't put it past a race car driver to abuse something more than they should.
Yeah, you can't really trust them to take care of the equipment or the track limits or really anything. If it can be abused, these drivers are definitely going to do it. So you can't expect too much conservation out of these drivers. Is out front, a little bit of a breakaway. You can see the top four starting to separate themselves from Bailing. And this battle with Phil Keck continuing. Taco Phil right on the bumper of the car ahead. That is Andy Smith in the 123. He's going to look down low. Might have a little bit of an opening here, but will he have the run out of the corner? He had to pinch the car down low, and no, that is going to take away all the momentum he had, so he's got to tuck back in line, and you might see a little bit of that slipstream we were talking about down this long straightaway. He is tucking in right behind that Mustang, and yes, right there you see he is closing in on the bumper. A little bit of a slingshot engage right there to the outside, and he's going to have the wide entry into turn one, which is generally where you want to be when you're by yourself, but that wide entry not always the best if you got a car down low and you can't cut down to the apex. You can see right there Taco Phil getting a little bit out of shape. He got up in the marbles, and that is what happens. That is why that outside groove is really only good if you're by yourself. You can shift lanes halfway through, hit a bit of a late apex, but if you're stuck out there, the marbles are going to get you off guard.
Yeah, and look out, here comes Neil Kemp. Didn't have the best qualifying effort, but now making his way up through the field, currently in 11th, knocking on the door of Phil Keck. He says, come on, Phil, get around this guy, let's go. Right now, Phil, like a dog chasing a car, he's caught it, but now he doesn't know what to do with it. Jay Bass sitting here in 14th position, has got some ground to make up too. He's had some pretty good seasons. Typically a pretty quiet driver. We don't really talk about him a lot on broadcast because he's not involved in a lot of incidents. But when he is involved in an incident, look out, it's normally big. We're not seeing a lot of him on the broadcast, but he's looking to make some moves here tonight. Love to see Jay Bass behind the wheel. You can check him out over on Twitch. He's one of the many drivers in this league that streams, and he is getting very close to Matt Thompson's rear bumper, even hitting the windshield wipers to try to get some of that dust. And oh no, look out. Is that Camden Decker?
Yes, sir. That is the
Camden Decker.
Way out of line.
He's going to give up a handful of positions as he had to go chase that car off nearly off the track, and now going to be falling under pressure from Kevin Buckholz, who was involved in that lap one incident last week, has made it through rather clean this week. It's now sitting back in 15th position, challenging Cam Decker for that spot. Cam's going to have to give that Mustang a couple corners here to let the tires cool down. As Kevin Buckholz is going to go on the attack, coming into turn 15, up the inside, looking like Joshua Wilkie, going to get the move done and going to have a big run down the straightaway. The Decker might have a little bit more momentum coming off the corner and be able to fight back. And they're going to go side by side down the front straightaway towards turn one. Who is going to get the slipstream off of Jay Bass right now? It looks like the inside line, the Decker is going to have it. So he's going to start to inch ahead. Now Bass is moving over, and it's going to give the benefit to Buckholz, who's going to be on the outside, not preferred line, but he might be able to pull a bit of a crossover here. He backs out a little bit early. Going to try to get a good run on the exit. He's got two corners ahead, first one to the left and then to the right. Where's he going to line up? He's just going to follow him through.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of had to go single file there. That's not quite close enough to make a move. But speaking of making a move, this is for position. I believe this is Schnackle and Hoopchok, both white and blue Mustangs, slightly different shades, but very close around that turn, and it looks like Hoopchok going to take the advantage as they exit that turn. Hoopchok up 3 from where he qualified. This is a driver who I feel like with Evan, his finishing results do not reflect his talent. He is such a fast driver. I mean, he's always got pace, but I feel like if he didn't have bad luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all. So hopefully we're not going to give him the commentator's curse here, but I like to see him up here tonight, and hopefully he can kind of carry it through.
He's one of those drivers that I've encountered in the Mustang more than a few times where I've been like, how is this guy so fast? Where am I wrong? And driving with Evan Hoopchak has made me better on multiple occasions. So we see him get the position away from Jeff Schnackle. Jeff started off really good. He was up to as far as 4th position at one point, now slowly falling down the top 10. Got one car between him and Andrew Smith, who is at the second place in the Challenger division, and you start to see those blue numbers populate there in the top 15. So Schnackle slowly falling back into their clutches. He looks like he had a really good start, but now that the tires are really coming up to temperature, might be struggling a little bit for grip out there. May have had the setup a little bit too tight or a little bit too loose in the rear end. We'll see how that car is behaving. It looks like maybe dealing with a bit of understeer mid-corner and not able to keep up the pace at the apex like everybody else. We're going to jump back up front. Luke Sudengay still leads the way over Taylor Balin, Luis Enriquez, Jack Sanchez. Andrew Bailing has now made his way up to P5, and he's not too terribly far away from this group. So he has a chance to get here with the leaders, make contact, and have a chance to win this race.
He's definitely got a chance now. The last time around for these drivers on your ticker there, and we're really not far off of qualifying times. I mean, Luke Sudengay, his last time around was a 2:07.8. His best lap so far, 2:07.5. So they've not lost a lot of time on tire wear. Again, tire wear not always the biggest deal with these Mustangs. I think really it just comes down to the temperature of those tires. And speaking of temperatures, Randall, I've been looking at the tire temps, or the track temp, I should say, throughout this day, and it seems like with the overcast in the skies, the weather is cooling down. The temperature in the air is going down. The track temp's going down. I don't know if that's going to be leading into any amount of rain, but one thing I do know is it's getting cooler out. So how does that affect the handling, Randall?
Well, as it gets cooler, they will be able to have a bit more grip in the tires, and they'll be able to push them just a little bit more. Now, if your tires are already overheated, the rubber on these cars, it's the tire. It's basically a pizza cutter covered in rubber. It feels like. So once you overheat them too much, it feels like you kind of cross the point of no return. Speaking of crossing over the point of no return, there looks like Tony Morano trying to get some of those positions back, looking up to the inside of Jay Little, almost got that nose chopped off there, manages to make through there cleanly, doesn't get the position, but is able to fall back in line, and he keeps that pressure dialed up on Jay Little, and we'll see if he's able to get around here in the next few corners. But right now, sitting back in 33rd after that turn one spin, and he's really sliding the car around. You see right there is a bit of a four-wheel drift coming off that corner, so he's pushing and trying to get up trying to get some of those spots back. Boy, easy for me to say.
Nothing's easy for us to say up in the booth. You'd think for the people who are meant to talk about this race, we'd be a little bit better at it, but we do the best we can. At least you do. Maybe I don't, but in the meantime, this battle continuing. A lot of single file, not a whole lot of battling through the field right now. And as we're kind of following along, I'm noticing some of these drivers might actually be backing it up into saving mode. As looking at their last times around, for example, looking at Evan Hubchak, it was a 2:08.2. That is over half a second off of his fast lap, and it seems like once he got around Jeff Schnackle, he kind of dropped off the pace a little bit. I don't know if he's conserving those tires or what's going on, but following along with Levi Powell there as well. Levi has had a good start to the season. See what kind of pace he has here at Mugello, or however the viewers at home want to pronounce it. As Levi in that 103, currently running at P26. He's a ways off the Challenger lead, but again, long night, a pit stop on the way. You mentioned at the top of the broadcast, Randall, that these guys have a little bit of a bigger pit window than we're used to seeing, as they can go about 30 minutes on a tank of fuel, which means really they could short pit, they could take the long pit strategy, they could really kind of try to time it. I know that some software with iRacing will kind of tell you, hey, if you pit now and you take tires, or you don't take tires, or whatever you want to do, this is where you're going to cycle out. And they can kind of figure out, well, do I want to clear track? Do I want to maybe get out with somebody so that I got a little bit of a draft down the straightaways? They got a lot of strategy options here tonight.
Absolutely. The pit window is already open right now on track, so they can be coming at any time. We have seen one driver come to the pit lane. Matt Thompson came in and stopped for 19 seconds. So we're going to see if that's a good high water mark for fuel stop right now. We see Andy Smith and Neil Kemp embroiled in a battle. Andy Smith up the inside, going to go defensive through the final corner and have a decent run, but he's going to give lots of space there to Neil Kemp on the outside. So Neil might be able to put together a run here. They're going to have Taco Phil ahead of them. Is that who that is? Yes, it is. Taco Phil ahead of them to dole out the draft. We're going to see who gets the draft there. We got a move for the lead going on.
Whoa.
Taylor Belant going to look up the inside of Luke Sudengay in turn one. Looks like he's got it nice alongside, but Sudengay fighting back along the outside, going to have the preferred line going into turn two. but now the advantage goes back to Ballant for turn 3, and a little bit of contact is going to shuffle Sudengay off the track a little bit there. It looks like it was very minor contact, but just enough to unsettle the car. And look who's taking advantage. Jack Sanchez getting the P3 away from Luis Henriquez, and now looking to put the pressure onto Luke Sudengay. He wants P2. He wants to go for that lead. We know Sanchez is never afraid to make a move for a pass, and he's ready for that lead.
Yeah, he's definitely looking for it. And again, he tends to get faster as the night goes on. Now, taking a look at the replay of the pass for the lead, riding on board with Sudengay, you might see a little bit of contact here. Very, very subtle, but just enough to shove him out into the kitty litter, and around goes Ballant. And what a change in that number 21. Remember back to round 1, Randall, referring to Taylor, we were watching that car, and we thought, man, something is wrong with that car. He was sideways every corner. He was struggling to get that thing under control. And I believe he finished outside of the top 30 that night. And we didn't know what to expect out of him for this season. Being a new name to the league and kind of not having the greatest outing for a rookie. Now all of a sudden we're here at round 3 and he's leading the way. And it's not a stroke of luck. I mean, this is on pace. His lap times are right there with the best of them.
Absolutely. You see Kevin Buckholz make a big move on Cam DeDecker to secure 14th position away from Cam. It looks like Cam has dropped a couple positions this lap. Brandon Brush was also able to get around him. Now Cam going to fall into the clutches of Chuck Labano, who won the Challenger division last season and is now in the Pro division and trying to make his way up into the top 15. Is struggling for pace here tonight a little bit compared to the rest of the pros, but is still heavily involved in this fight, looking to get around Cam DeDecker. It looks like he got a pretty good run off that last corner and is going to have a big dose of slipstream as they make their way down the start-finish straight. We'll see when and where he pops out. He's going to get as close as he can. He's going to wait, and there he pops out. I think he was hoping the inside would open up. It did not, so he's going to have to make a run on the outside. He does pull alongside, but he's not very far alongside. He might be in position to make a crossover happen. No, he's going to stick to the outside, and here comes David Finch up the inside, missing the rear bumper. I wonder if these cars are like the old NASCAR cars where if you took the rear bumper off them, it gained about 10 horsepower.
Well, if they are, it's not showing for Finch because he qualified really well. He is down 13 from where he started. He's not posting the best lap times. His last time around was a 2:09.4. So a little bit off pace by something to the tune of about a second. And that is catastrophic for Mr. Finch because you mentioned right when we got on air, he was second in points. And now he is third in points, I believe. He was on the podium. I don't remember exactly where you said. My memory is that of a goldfish. But he was doing really well in points, is what I'm saying. And now he's got a situation where he's outside of the top 15. He is kind of working with a wounded horse here. And he's got to make it 20 more minutes with that thing. It is not a good points night, and you don't want to burn up a drop week this early.
Speaking of situations, we saw Phil Keck there under pressure from Neil Kemp, and he's going to have to deal with that here pretty soon. And looking ahead from Mark Royce, we got some cars battling for position. Cam DeDecker and Chuck Labano and David Finch still at it. Mark Royce trying to join this trio. Currently serving at lap 10. They're coming around to start lap 11 here very shortly, just about near the halfway point of this race. We're expecting 19 laps to be ran tonight, that includes our prediction with the pit stop times. So we should be seeing a 19 lap race tonight. As far as laps go, they're just past the halfway point. They're just past the halfway point on time. We're starting to see some action on pit lane. Samuel Stoner's coming into pit lane. Mark Royce is going to follow him in. So we're starting to see some takers on pit lane. We'll see how fast they are able to get going once again. Right now, our watermark is Matt Thompson with a 19-second stop. I suspect that might be a little bit slow. He may have gotten some repairs done. We'll see how Sam Stoner and Mark Royce are able to get on, as they're going to be falling down the order temporarily, as really kind of the Pied Pipers of pit strategy here. If we see another battle for the leads, Luke Sudengay going to try to come back on Taylor Ballant. It looks like they're going through turns 2 and 3. Luke Sudengay was looking to the outside of turn 3, was not able to get it done. Ballant going to retain that position for now. So it's hot and heavy at the front as the pit window opens. We see Mark Royce comes out with a 13.4 stop, an 18.9 stop out of Stoner, and we see Jay Little and Stephen Price have entered the pit lane. So it's starting to kick off on pit lane. We see, look at that, somebody's going up there on jacks for tires.
Yeah, so the jack stand going up, that is unexpected. We don't often see tire changes here in AMS. Again, the tire temp tends to be more important than the actual wear itself. And the reason they don't take tires, as you explained a couple times to me, is just that it takes too long to get them heated up again. If you take fresh tires, they're going to be cold, and by the time you get them warm, you've lost a ton of time, more so than you would have lost staying on the old tires.
I think some of these drivers might be playing a sneaky strategy, and they suspect it might start raining any moment, and maybe have went to rain tires, or maybe inadvertently started on rain tires and are going back to the dries. Might explain why some of these drivers are struggling out here where we normally see them doing a little bit better. Stephen Price out of the pit lane now. He was stopped for 16.8 seconds, so he didn't take tires. As we see Neil Kemp battling now with Andy Smith. He is currently in 8th position, it looks like, so gonna be trying to move up that leaderboard. We're gonna see a couple of these drivers, I suspect, dip into pit lane this time by. So far, no takers, but nope, none of this group gonna come in. Okay, I guess shows what I know. Neil Kemp under pressure from Andy Smith as they make a run down the start-finish straight. Jeff Schnackel is in pit lane, it looks like. Ken Estep is in pit lane. And David Finch is also in the pit lane, so David Finch gonna look to try to maybe get that rear bumper repaired while he is in. Jeff Schnackel, the closest one to the lead that's been in the pits so far.
Yet I do not believe the jack stand went up for Schnackel. We'll have to wait and see what comes of all of this chaos on pit road. A lot of these drivers opting to kind of split the race roughly in half. But again, the leaders still yet to come down pit road. Ballant, Sudengay, Sanchez, Bailing, Henriquez. These boys still out on track, doing everything they can to maintain their position. And again, they could stretch it out potentially another 6 minutes if they really want to, which is, I think, about 3 laps or so here at Mugello for these Mustangs. Again, very long lap times. It is a bit of an obstacle course for these guys, and it is raining.
And look at there. The rain has come. It is raining at Mugello right now. How does this affect the race? There is 15 minutes left in this race. That is plenty of time for there to be some track evolution, for the track to get a little bit wet. And now that they've built some rubber in this track, the racing line could become very treacherous very quickly. We'll see if anybody responds to come into pit lane to put wet tires on. The last race of last season, we saw it start raining right in the last 10 minutes of the race. Some drivers did come in for rain tires and others did not. Jack Sanchez was one of the notable ones that stayed out on dry tires. Scott Banks, who ultimately lost that championship fight, did come in for rain tires, got a pit road speeding penalty, and it really threw a wrench in his plans. We're starting to see some spray off the cars already, so the track getting wet here really quickly. We'll see if we have any takers this time by. We're going to see some reactions possibly out of these drivers as they come into the pit lane, maybe put on the rain tires.
And I want to stress to the viewers at home, the last time we saw rain, it was a very light rain, and we couldn't even see it on the cameras. We couldn't quite see it falling. We could only see the spray off of the cars itself. The fact that we can see this rain on the spectators' cameras tells you it is quite a downpour here at Mugello, and these drivers having to come down pit road, having to get those rain tires. Obviously, it's a tough call. How long is it going to rain? Do they know if it's going to rain for the rest of the race? I mean, what do you do, especially for Sanchez, who took those dries? Does he bother coming back down for rain tires and giving up all of that time, or does he just weather it out and hope for the best?
Nice pun. I see what you did there. Jay Bass going to take it to Andy Smith in the changing conditions. Looks like he's still got confident levels of grip. He makes that move and gets it done through turns 1 and 3. That's a 2-wide battle through that left-right chicane as Neil Kemp comes out of the pit lane. He's got rain tires on that car. My scoring sheet's telling me. So we might see some more drivers come in for rain tires. Camden Decker also put the wets on. So they're praying that not only does the rain keep going, they want it to just come down in buckets, and they hope everybody else stays out for much longer. Right now, pit lane, very, very busy.
Yeah, that's not much of a surprise. When it starts coming down like this, these drivers are going to be scrambling to get the opportune tires that they need to navigate this track successfully. And it is interesting to see how the rain has affected the track temp. Obviously, cooling the track down, but I did not quite expect a 30-degree change. It was 101 degrees at its peak. It has gone down to 75 since it started raining, so about 26 degrees the difference. But the temperature doesn't matter to these guys. What matters is the wet line versus the dry line. And really, I don't think we're going to develop much of a dry line until we've turned a few more laps. It has only been raining for a little while, and these guys are going to have to seek out the wet once that dry line does start to form, because, of course, you do not want to be on the dry line with those very soft, very malleable rain tires. It's just something you kind of have to focus on. And it is kind of something I'm wondering about, Randall. How much do these guys practice in the rain? It's not a common thing in AMS. As long as it has been available for about a season and a half, we've only seen it twice. So do a lot of these guys think it's even worth it to practice in the rain, or, how well prepared really are they?
There's no telling it. We haven't had a lot of practice sessions that were in the rain that were officially hosted by AMS. But I see Jack Sanchez going on to the Jack Sands. There goes Taylor Ballant, Luis Enriquez, Jacks are under that. So they're all going to wet tires. They all think this rain is here to stay, and it's going to be enough that they're going to want those wet tires. And the leaders all in. It looks like Brandon Brush stayed out, and Andrew Bailing also stayed out. So they're going to inherit the top two positions out of this. So Andrew Bailing going to get a lap-led bonus point. Luis winning the race off pit lane right now. Taylor is stuck here for a long time. I wonder what's taking so long to get that car serviced, but he's absolutely throwing this race away right now as we see a bunch of cars are going to jump him coming out of pit lane. It's an absolute madhouse, and look how wet that pit lane tarmac is. It looks absolutely soaked down there. The track is changing conditions very, very quickly. Look at the spray coming off the cars. Taylor Ballant, I suspect, may have gotten a pit road speeding penalty and is serving that now while he sits there and watches the race slip away from him.
That's got to be the only explanation. I mean, even the damage he got from the bump and run earlier in the night would only be a few seconds of damage repair if he didn't untick it. He would not have a 50-plus second pit stop. So I think you're exactly right. Probably a speeding penalty, and I think I know the cause, Randall. I think a lot of these drivers coming down into pit road might be caught off guard because, hey, guess what? Water on the track, can't slow down quite in time. Probably just a little bit over the pace for the first timing line, and that's all she wrote. But it is coming down.
Yeah,
I mean, this is the biggest downpour I have seen on iRacing in my limited experience with the rain, and I cannot.
There's a car off there, and we see Tyler Ballant hit the windshield, the headlights coming on as he comes into pit lane. We'll see. Take another look at his pit entrance. He's getting down through the gears pretty good. So I wonder if maybe he just carried a little bit too much speed. It didn't look like much like a slide, but we saw there Andrew Bailing absolutely tiptoeing through the third sector of that lap. So it's ultimately probably going to cost him a lot of time. Andy Smith there struggling. It looks like he's on the wet tires, so that's not a tires issue so much. Behind him is Mark Royce, who still seems to be on the dries. And we did see another car off. I wasn't able to get a glimpse, see who that was exactly, but we saw Jonathan Burt there behind Andrew Bailing also struggling to keep that car going. And look at Andy Smith having a big moment there coming out of the corner, has to gather it up. So conditions changing very quickly out here on the track as we're going to jump. Andrew Bailing is in the pit lane, going to surrender that lead. Brandon Brush also in the pits, and it is coming down in buckets. This is going to give the lead back to Luis Enriquez, but he's 45 seconds back, so I'm not exactly sure. Maybe actually Andrew Bailing, nope, here comes Luis, not 45 seconds, 5 seconds back, but Andrew Bailing's going to have the lead here, possibly going into turn one. He's not going to have as much pace as Luis Enriquez coming down the track. We'll see where exactly he comes out. But here comes Luis Enriquez very fast. It's going to be possibly too wide. No, Luis Enriquez is going to win that race down to turn one and get the lead back. But Andrew Bailing able to make up 2 spots by staying out for 1 lap longer.
Yeah, that it does. And one thing to note as well in the rain, a new thing that these guys are going to have to contend with now that it is pouring rain, is the spray off the car in front. Right now, Henriquez has a huge advantage in the fact that he is the lead car. He doesn't have to deal with the visual spray coming off of anybody. But if you are following somebody very closely, it is tough to see. I mean, it'll mist up your windshield. It'll basically make you a blind man into the corner.
Whoa, Evan Hoopchak with a big slide. He's going to give up a handful of tenths to Jack Sanchez, who's going to immediately apply the pressure and going to look to the inside, going to try to get that move done into turn 4, going to ride over that curb, which is a very bold strategy here in the wet, going to give the preferred line back to Hoopchak, who sort of has to check up before he runs a little bit too wide. And ultimately, it looks like Sanchez is going to get this move done, and they are slipping and sliding.
Oh, man, I thought Sanchez was sliding right into the kitty litter there, and I thought he was taking Evan with him. I can't believe he made that stick. I think that was a matter of 8 wheels turning better than 4. I think if Evan had not been there, Sanchez may not have made that corner, but he does gain a position there. And Henriquez maintaining his lead, bailing in second. A lot of separation courtesy of the pit stops and the rain. 1 second between first and second, and then another 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds back to Sanchez in third. Evan Hoopchak in fourth, already dropping off of the bumper of Sanchez. And I'll tell you what, Jack is moving in this rain. He is actually one of the fastest cars right now. His last time by was about a second faster than Hoopchak. So, again, these drivers haven't had too many laps up to pace, but we do have a replay of Cloft, the other Taco Bell car, and Jay Bass throwing some hands.
Not sure exactly who that was. Yeah, it looked like Jay Bass. Luke Sudengay has picked up a lot of damage on that car. I'm not sure where that's happened at. We see he's struggling. He's got a lot of damage. I did notice before the pit stop, look at the big drift. He's going to send it all the way and then catch it. And cars behind had to make some evasive maneuvers, and one of those being Phil Keck. And then it looks like Matthew Zinda possibly having some issues. He's on dry tires according to my scoring sheet, and it's going to show. Look at him sliding everywhere. He is really struggling for grip. Another look at the big slide out of the remnant 2 entry, and he's going to end up over in the green stuff, and it's going to be even worse over there. Another notable driver still that appears to be on dry tires. It could be a scoring issue. Who's that off? Is that Jonathan Burt, newcomer Jonathan Burt, struggling? So lap traffic going off in front of the leaders. That's going to make Luis's eyes light up. But my scoring thing still says that Jeff Schnackle is on dry tires. For currently, he's sitting in 4th place, but he is losing time hand over fist to the leaders and falling quickly back into the clutches of Jay Bass. So he didn't take tires and gained a lot of time. Now he's paying that back very, very quickly, and we'll see if he's able to keep that position away from Andrew Smith. Jeff Schnackle currently leading the way for the Challenger division. Dave Blair's still sitting pretty comfortably in the lead for the Amateur division, as there's Scott Brooks off to the side of the track there ahead of Schnackle, as if he didn't have enough problems to deal with right now. Suddenly he's worried about lap traffic coming back on. Look how wet that racing line is. All that rubber built up. Once it gets wet, it's extra slick, and you really need to avoid it. And he's got his hands full here, Andre.
Yeah, he's doing everything he can to keep that thing pointed in the right direction. Getting caught out on dry tires is not the ideal situation. We've already seen a few drivers spin out as a result, and he is dirt tracking it around the corner like he's driving a micro sprint. Oh, hold on to her, buddy. Cranking on the wheel. I mean, this is a great piece of driving. The fact that he is able to keep this thing going and not loop it out thus far is massively impressive. This track is absolutely drenched. I have to imagine he's going to be coming down pit road, because whatever time he gives up on pit road is not going to be as much as he has given up here. Just limping it around the corners and into the kitty.
There you go. He's finally off. We do have 4 minutes left in this race, so he might try to stay out and salvage what he can, but he's going to give up 2 spots to Jay Bass and Phil Keck. And now the next one for position will be behind him will be Kevin Buchholz, and then it's Andrew Smith. So he's just got to hold on for 4 more laps. And with the change in pace and the fact that it's raining now and everybody took tires on the pit stop, that means we're only going to be doing 18 laps. They're serving a lap of 16 of 18 right now, so they'll be coming around to take lap 17. So we're getting very close to the end of this race. 2 laps to go for the leaders. The next time the leaders come by, they'll be getting that white flag. Right now, Luis Henriquez with a half-second gap over Andrew Bailing, and then it's another second back to Jack Sanchez, and then a huge gap back to 4th place is Jay Bass. So right now we have a 3-way battle for the lead, and look at the spray coming off Brandon Brush's car. Andy Smith has got a windshield full, and he's got those wipers going full blast. He's far enough back where he's going to have a decent view of turn 1, but wildly different lines being taken here. Everybody avoiding that primary racing line as we see, Andy Smith gets out there in that gravel and gets a little bit loose. Behind them, Camden Decker trying to come up and get some spots here. Right now, Jack Sanchez what has happened to Andrew Bailing? We've lost Andrew Bailing, so now we have a two-way fight for the lead. Jack Sanchez is going to try to close the gap. We're starting to see some puddles form there at the apexes, so track conditions getting very, very wet very quick. As we're going to see Andrew Bailing having an issue. They're coming off turn 3, going to give that spot to Jack Sanchez. Jack's going to say, "Thank you very much, sir." As Andrew Bailing's going to try to get the car going back in the right direction. Some of these drivers are really struggling with the rain.
I tell you, one driver that's not is Jack Sanchez in second place. I've been looking at the lap times. Every lap in the rain, he has been a second plus faster than Luis Henriquez. That's how he's brought this gap from 4 seconds down to 1.1. Now that he's a little bit closer, it's going to be tough. He's going to be in the spray, and he's going to have to kind of contend with the leader. Getting to him is one thing. Passing him will be another, but he's definitely going to have a shot at it. He is the fastest driver in the rain, and that's why, because he is driving this thing all out. He does not care whether he's sliding around up into the kitty litter. He is abusing the track limits. We were talking about it earlier. These drivers will abuse track limits. They'll abuse the cars, and in this case, they will abuse the tires. See him cranking on the wheel, sawing that thing as he comes out of the corner.
Luis Henriquez coming to take the white flag. He's got a 1 second gap over Jack Sanchez. We'll see if Jack has it in him to close this gap and challenge Henriquez here in the closing stages of this race. You see Barney waving the white flag. He's not surrendering. He says, "Go, boys, go." One more lap to go. Luis Henriquez with a second in hand. Can he retain this position? That's very, very wet out there. They are kind of sticking to the primary racing line, which is a bit surprising, but also why you're seeing them slide around so much right now, kind of exploring to try to find where the grip is at. And Sanchez has been the better one at it. He's already closed that gap by half a second. As we see, another fight going on and some trouble in the background. Levi Powell and Jeff Andrus going at it for P13. And there's Jeff Schnackel, dropped back all the way to 15th position now, it looks like. Oh. And it going to, oh no, he got so close. One more lap. All you needed, Schnackel. One more lap. And he's gonna soldier on. He's gonna get the car back onto the track. No front bumper. Who needs one anyway? He's gonna get going again. He was so close to making it, and he's gonna bring it into pit lane. He says, "Nope. I know when enough is enough, and this is enough."
That is a shame. He was trying to countersteer. What happened right there? He was sliding in the wet. He tried to countersteer, and his car found the one dry part on the entire track, and it just snapped right to the right, sent him through the kitty litter and into the wall. But this is for the lead on the final lap of the race. Sanchez has gotten through the bumper with a huge send and a big slide, like you said. He is going to be applying the pressure to Henriquez. The spray all over the windshield. He does not care. He is following those red taillights, doing everything he can to the outside now. I think he's going to cut back down to the bottom is what you're going to see potentially. Yes, he will. It's going to be a big run out, but does he have anywhere to take it? Big slide out
of Henriquez. And that's going to give inside line to Sanchez. Is he going to be able to use it? No, he's not able to get there. Henriquez is going to retain the position through this final chicane. They're coming up to the last corner now. Does Sanchez send an absolute bonsai move down the inside, or does Luis defend that? And Luis is going to put the car right in the middle of the track and give Sanchez no room on either side, it looks like. And who's going to get the better run is Sanchez is going to try to get the power down and look at the rear end step out. That's going to give Luis Henriquez a good run off of the final corner, and he should be able to keep this easily in hand as he's going to cross the line to win here at round 3 at Mugello. Luis Henriquez going to be your winner, and Jack Sanchez coming home second place in a very, very close fought battle.
Yeah, that was intense. Sanchez did everything he could. He made all the right moves, but you can't shake Henriquez. You just can't. I've said it in prior broadcasts. That is a driver that I don't even know if he's got a rearview mirror in that car, because he never seems to get nervous no matter how much somebody's on the bumper, no matter how fast they're approaching. He doesn't miss his marks. He doesn't miss his lines. And it shows. He got the win tonight, and we're still fighting it out for the other divisions. Cam DeDecker going to get the provisional win in Challenger after the issues with Schnackel and a few other drivers. So Cam DeDecker going to bring it home at P7, winning his division. Second place in his division is going to be Smith, not too far behind. And as for amateur, it's pretty close back there. Dave Blair and Tom Wendt, 17th and 18th. Not too far away from each other. They'll be coming around the final corner before too awful long. But man, oh man, the rain completely changed the outlook of this race, and what a show it was.
Dave Blair going to come home with the amateur win over Tom Wendt by 4 or 5 seconds now. So Dave Blair able to come home, get his first win of the season, I believe. And let me tell you about Cam DeDecker. He came in a lap before the rest of the leaders. He was one of the first drivers we saw go to the rain tires, and it paid off huge for him. He was able to gain a couple spots from that. And then, of course, seeing Schnackel stay out there on the dries, the gamble didn't work out for him. Given that win in the Challenger division to DeDecker with a 7th place overall is a pretty good showing. They're waiting for the last few cars to come across the line. Neil Kemp was one of those drivers who were waiting to get across the line. He's all the way down in 36th place. He was fighting for a much higher position in all of that, and he's on the rain tires, so it wasn't a tire issue. John Casey and Freddie Weaver having a bit of a drag race here for 23rd position right at the end of the lap, and it looks like it's going to go the way of Weaver. David Finch here still involved in a bit of a fight here with Ed Santinelli. Looks like he lost the spot to Santinelli here in the last lap. Not going to be able to close the gap back up and fighting back. And then Evan Hubchak, who we saw fighting up front for most of this race, is going to come home 28th with a sad finish for him. Samuel Stoner coming off the last corner, going to be coming home in 30th position. Matthew Gazinda possibly here in 30th position. The numbers keep changing on me as they cross the line. So we're in the 30s now, but Matthew Gazinda, we saw him have some issues with the rain, and he's going to be doing a big power slide across the line and having a little bit of fun now that the race is over. And poor old Jeff Schnackel, 1 lap shy of being able to make it. Jay Little, maybe your last driver on track to finish the race as he's making his way through what appears to be the final corner, and he's tiptoeing it through the rain. And we're going to take a look here at what happened with Jeff Schnackel in the last corner.
Yeah, like I said, when it happened, it was just a bit of an overcorrect. Generally, he would expect that car not to snap to the right in the rain, but he might have found a dry patch of the asphalt there, and it just hooked him right around. And when that kitty litter is wet on iRacing, it's almost the opposite effect of what it would be in real life. It actually slows you down more when it's wet in real life, but it seems like you're on iRacing. Once that kitty litter gets wet, you are going to be going on an ice rink. He took him straight to the tire barriers, and like you said, 1 lap short after a valiant effort to bring that thing home on the wrong tires. He was doing such a good job, but Mother Nature does not play favorites, unfortunately, and it came back to bite him. But what a show as these drivers having fun out on the track, celebrating a little bit and doing some, I don't know if you can call them burnouts when it's in the rain, but,
Waiting for those final standings to come in for it to be official. We'll go through that finishing classification as soon as we have it. But yes, they're having some fun out here in the rain. This, you can mark it on your calendar, folks. We finally did it. We finally had rain in an American Muscle Series race. Actual physical, simulated rain on an actually wet track. People actually on rain tires where it mattered. Luis Henriquez able to come home. His margin of victory, 0.264 seconds, just over 0.2 of a second over Jack Sanchez, and not for lack of trying. Jack Sanchez was there, and he was just hoping for one more lap. Andrew Bailing, having one of his best showings of the season, going to come home in 3rd place, despite being in 2nd place there towards the end, and has had a little bit of trouble with a couple laps to go. Jay Bass going to finish 4th quietly. A really good race out of Jay Bass. Taco Phil Keck got to come home 5th. Kevin Buchholz in 6th. Cam DeDecker, your Challenger winner, comes home 7th overall. Brandon Brush in 8th. Luke Sudengay in 9th after being up in the lead at the start of this race. Andy Smith in 10th place. Chuck Labano in 11th. 12th place, Ryan Campbell. Levi Powell in 13th. Jeff Andrus in 14th. 15th place going to be Aaron Bray with Taylor Brillant, who was also challenging for this race. I think maybe he got a speeding penalty, going to come home 16th. 17th place is going to see your amateur winner, Dave Blair, with 18th position, going to Tom Wendt. 19th place, Tony Morano and Matt Thompson going to round out your top 20.
Outside of the top 20, it is going to be Brandon Smith, P21. Sean Johnson going to be 22nd. John Casey, 23rd. 24th, Freddie Weaver. Jeff Bernard going to be P25. Ed Santinelli goes 26th. 27th is going to be David Finch after a hard-fought night, difficult night for that number 35 machine. Evan Hubchak drops through the running order as well, all the way back to P28. Samuel Stoner going to be 29th. 30th going to go to Matthew Guzenda. Outside of the top 30, Eli Kloft, Jay Little, Scott Brooks, Stefan Price, Jeff Schnackel, 1 lap shy of the finish. Neil Kemp, P36. And round out the field, it is going to be Mark Royce, Jonathan Burt, Kenneth Stepp, Charlie Hosey, Chris Logan, Matt Best, Mike Pico, and David Moore. 17 laps down, 44 Mustangs in total. And I do believe we finally have some interviews lined up.
Yeah, we do. I have got my hands on Luis Henriquez, the second time this season you've been in winner's circle. Not an easy victory today, and it was wet out there. Tell us what it was like there at the crossover point.
Oh man, that's probably one of the most interesting races I've done so far. Like it was pretty much searching to see where I could get grip and the car would snap at any given point. Like I was amazed that we kept it in one piece going, but it was fun though. It was fun holding back Jack all the way through the race. I threw haymakers at him just hoping that maybe they'll stick or not, but fair play to everyone. And man, that you know what? For full disclaimer, I wanted to win Long Beach and not this race, so there goes the irony out the window.
Well, I'm going to call you out a little bit here, Luis. You said during practice, whenever I mentioned that there was a decent likelihood of rain, that you're hoping that it comes down because you thrive on chaos. You got what you asked for and you won the race. Are you looking forward to more rain races here in AMS?
I do actually, because I haven't gotten to drive this car that much in the rain, and I actually find that it's a lot more forgiving than on the dry. So, and I find it very satisfying to drive around the track and see what sticks and what doesn't, and see what other people do. And it's very satisfying to get it right, especially when it's starting to get everything out the window, and all of a sudden it's not so much of a control race and more finding that little edge that you can get over everyone else.
Next week, we go to Road Atlanta. Normally a race we see at the end of the schedule for American Muscle Series. Now we're seeing it kind of in the middle. What are your prospects going into that track?
Well, I like that track a lot. In the past, I've done good. In this tire model, I'm not so sure. I have to do some adjustments to make it work how I used to make it before. And again, like every single week, and if you miss it by a little bit, you're starting 7 for 8 for even reports. So these guys definitely keep everyone on their heels, and it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a lot of patience, I think, and a lot of traffic management in that track.
Well, we are 3 races into the season. You have 2 wins under your belt. Congratulations, sir. And before we let you go celebrate, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Shout out to Jack. Like he kept me pinned all the way through, and on the very final corner, I pretty much closed the door on him to try and make that ass. Otherwise, he was going to get a really good run on me, and he respected it. He could easily shut the door on me and spun me out. But like I said, he races hard, but he tries to make it fair for everyone.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations once again, Luis, and maybe we'll be talking to you again here over the rest of the season, and we'll let you go celebrate. That was Luis Henriquez, your overall winner, your Pro Division winner, and a wet one here. And Andre, who have you tracked down?
Well, looks like we're going to be talking to Cam Strategy DeDecker.
Oh, well.
Mr. DeDecker,
you got the wrong person. Hold on. Stand by.
Oh, wrong guy. There
go.
He is. Mr. DeDecker, you got a copy?
Hey, yep.
Well, Cam, you were, I believe, the very first driver to come down pit road and take rain tires, and it paid off in droves. Tell me what was going through your mind when you made that decision to come down and take those tires and beat everybody out as far as strategy, and walk me through the rest of the race there.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, I had a good quali, and I'll start from there. Had a good quali, but holy crap, man, I could not, I was sliding everywhere. I was killing my tires, and I was just going down the pack. So it's I'm gonna hold out. I knew there was a possibility of rain looking at my black box. So I was like, okay, rain's coming. Let me see if I can hold out till the rain. And I got really lucky. On my last lap, I needed to pit in for fuel. It started raining. So I was like, screw it. Put wets on. I need to try something different. Put them on, and then what do you know? It just starts pouring. So I wasn't really just kind of really lucky.
Threw the kitchen sink at it, and it worked out. And again, it was one of those things where I think a lot of drivers, they knew the rain was coming, but we get rain so little in this league, and rain has been a feature on iRacing for such a short amount of time. I think it still catches a lot of drivers off guard, and it's still a bit of a gamble as to how they're going to handle it when it does approach, and you just happen to handle it right. Tell me a little bit about how the handling conditions were once you got on those wets, once it started to rain. How much did you have to adjust your driving style?
Oh, yeah, it was still really slick out there. I mean, if it was slick on dries, I mean, it was really slick on wet still. It was, I mean, I don't know, I'd be in third in the first corner instead of second, and I was still spinning third in like almost all of the corners. I mean, still about to spin every time. It was really feathering the throttle.
Yeah, throttle control. We saw a lot of drivers having to ease off the throttle a lot sooner, roll into it a little bit later, and a lot of counter steering. And we were just kind of watching a little bit of your on board there from the race, and you were doing your own fair share of counter steering. Congratulations on the division win. Before we let you go, though, any shout outs you'd like to make?
Yeah, to my wife, she's killing it with carrying our baby. It's like in a week and a half, I think, or less. Are my first child's due. So
congratulations.
Yeah, I'll be. Luckily, we have drop weeks, so because I'll be needing some of those. Yeah.
Well, we are.
No drop weeks of the baby, though, Cam. Remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't want to drop that. But again, congratulations on the division win, and hopefully we see you next week. But I think you're going to have your hands tied up. Whenever we see you, we'll be glad to see you. Thank you for your time.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, Challenger winner out of the booth again, winning out on strategy there. And I believe Randall McGrew has tracked down Dave Blair for real this time.
Yes, for real this time. We have Dave Blair, your amateur division winner. And Dave, I think I misspoke earlier and said this was your first race, your first win of the season. But I'm pretty sure you won that first round, didn't you, bud?
Yes, I did. This is number 2.
2 wins, 3 races. Next week we have Road Atlanta. But before we talk about that, what was the rain like for you here tonight? This is the first time we've really seen rain in an AMS race. What was it like?
Well, I got really lucky. So I think I had like 2 laps left on fuel. I had to come in anyway, and I was like, they said it was starting to sprinkle, and I knew the rain was coming. So yeah, I hit the pits. I had checked my tires, changed them to wet. I figured I was doing all right. And then, man, everybody was just like spinning out in front of me.
Yeah, we saw a lot of people were struggling with the wet, and a few brave souls stayed out there on dry tires. So, I imagine you did have your hands full trying to dodge some traffic. It looks like you were able to keep it pointed in the right direction, though. How did you find the car behaved in the wet conditions?
Well, I had to slow it down because I did get loose, and I started to get sideways a few times, and I was like, okay, there's no rush. Because I'm seeing people spin out. I'm looking at where I'm at. I'm like, just maintain, drive safe. I had the wets on. I still don't. This is really the first time I think I've been in an official race in the wet. I hardly ever, mess around with that. But yeah, it was okay. I just backed it off.
Well, back to Road Atlanta next week. Normally we see that at the end of the schedule. It's coming in the middle of the schedule this season. You got Tom Went dueling with you for the points championship right now, 3 races in. It's always one that kind of brings out the heat. What do you expect next week at Road Atlanta? What do you think your chances are?
Again, I don't like to count my chickens before they hatch. And again, I was following Tom. I don't think if it hadn't rained, I'm sure Tom probably would have taken this win. Because I was on his bumper, I was trying to get in his head. I'm, ducking and dodging, and he's putting in some good laps. So he's definitely my competition, and he put up a good fight. I thought for sure I'd be able to jump him in the pits, but then when the rain hit, I don't know what happened to him. Next thing I know, he's 4 seconds behind me.
Well, congratulations on the win tonight, bud. And before we let you go celebrate, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, shout out always Sean Cole, the Sim Pit. He's a legend.
Well, there you go. Thank you once again, and congratulations once again, Dave. And maybe we'll be talking to you again here in the coming weeks.
All right, thank you.
That was Dave Blair, your amateur division winner. He's also tied for the championship now in the clean driver competition in that division. He is the perennial winner. He seems to win that every season, so he gets to race for free around here a lot because of those winnings. And Andre, it finally happened, dude. It finally happened. We've been having rain enabled for almost an entire AMS season now, and it's finally happened.
Yeah, we've been waiting with bated breath. Obviously, we got a glimpse of the rain last season. Just a little bit of a sprinkle towards the end of the race. It was just the last few laps, and that was chaotic in and of itself. But this time we got the full experience. We got the race starting in the dry, and then it was just a little past halfway that it really started coming down in buckets. And everybody was kind of forced to fully adapt to it and fully experience it in the way that you typically would for the first time. And it was definitely something to see. And like I said, I think it caught a lot of these drivers off guard, Randall. I mean, they knew it was coming, but I mean, how do you prepare for that? It's just a crazy situation. And hopefully we get a little bit more rain in the future, but I bet these drivers are hoping next week stays dry.
Absolutely, I bet they are. And some of them are going to be hoping that it's wet. Luis seems to really thrive there in the wet, and he's hoping for a bit of chaos. And so stay tuned here on Slow Motion Broadcasting for that race next week. Speaking of that race next week, we have a bunch of upcoming broadcasts. We are a busy bunch of folks here at Slow Motion Broadcasting. Of course, here Tuesday nights, you can catch the American Muscle Series at 9:10 p.m. Eastern. We'll be live every Tuesday. We do skip iRacing at week 13 for an off week. We'll be here for the entire season on Tuesdays. Then on Wednesdays, we have Ray Esports Club Racing League and the Sim Racers Group both going on Wednesday nights. The first Ray Esports Club Racing League is at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, with the Sim Racer Group running at 9:45 p.m. Eastern. And then an absolutely action-packed weekend brought to you by the Ray Esports Weekend Warriors on Saturdays at 2:20 p.m. Eastern. We have the Formula V race. Then on Sundays, you can catch myself, Randall McGrew, in the booth talking about Ray Esports in the Ray FFs on Sundays at 12:45 p.m. Eastern, and then followed by the Spec Racer Forwards for the Weekend Warriors at 2:45 Eastern on Sundays. So all your racing needs right here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Make sure to hit that like button on this video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you know every time Slow Motion Broadcasting goes live. And a little birdie just told me that one of our favorite leagues here at Slow Motion Broadcasting, the Cross Series League Racing League, will be back this Sunday. They race all 4 disciplines in one season, and it is a hoot to watch. And you'll be able to catch Tim Cox on the microphone for that one. And Andre, final thoughts for tonight, man. What a race.
It absolutely was. I think, number one, Jack Sanchez kind of showed us who some of the best are in the rain. Sanchez himself obviously was some of the best pace. He did reel in the leader from multiple seconds back. But at the same time, he showed us that when it comes to defense in the rain, Luis Enriquez does a pretty good job as well. So interesting to see there. And I also think that this track just puts on a really good show. I wasn't too familiar with this track going into tonight, but given the variation that this circuit has and the longer lap times, it puts these drivers through the ringer, and I thought it was a really good product.
Absolutely. We saw who was able to thrive, who wasn't, who gambled. We had some gamblers, and it didn't work out for anybody. You got so close, Jeff. Just so close. Just one more lap, bud. You were right there. But that's going to bring us to a close tonight. Thank you very much for joining us here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. That was American Muscle Series Season 8, Race 3 at Mugello. My name's Randall McGrew. I've been joined in commentary by Andre Grandbouche, and in the production booth, Joshua Wilkie on the buttons and knobs. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a great night.